Surprisingly enough, and many of you may know, but there is an old beet video out there that I did for pickled beets that actually a lot of you have really enjoyed. And I've gotten some awesome comments, some great feedback. And so I decided it is time for an update, and I'm gonna do 3 variations. Classic, and 2 unique ones that I know you were gonna love. Pickled beets sound weird, and okay, they sound really gross kind of to a lot of people, but they're delicious! So let's just try it. I think you're gonna love it. For the classic, I'm using dark red beets. I love to grow my own. I do not expect you all to do that. So of course, just go to your farmer's market and look for what is being grown and ask for a dark red beet. It's gonna give the best color and some great flavor. You can also go to your grocer that you know and really like and find some great ones there too. To cook them, I like to leave about 1 inch of the stems on and the roots on. What this is gonna help do is not have the liquid and the water that is inside of these beets just seep out, or as a lot of people call it, bleed out, which sounds really gross, but it does kind of look like blood, so I think you get it. But you just wanna leave those on, and that's gonna help them not leak out too much liquid. I like to scrub off the skins really well and just make sure they're really clean. Put them into a large stock pot or a kettle and then cover them with water. Bring the beets to a boil and then let them go on a low boil for quite a while. The larger the beets, obviously the longer they're gonna take to boil. I like to put the largest beets at the bottom of the kettle and then work my way up to the smaller beets. That way, as you start checking them to be done, the smaller ones, which are gonna be done first, are at the top. To check if they're done, I just take a knife, lift one up. If it pierces extremely easily, then it's done. Pull it out and let it cool slightly in a bowl. Once they're all out, just place them under some cool running water because they could still be a little warm. And then just use a knife, take off any of the stems that are left and the root. They are cooked so long that honestly they almost fall off. And then just take those skins off. Just use the back of a knife to kind of scrape them off or cut them. If they don't come off easily, it means they weren't cooked long enough. So that's another easy way to know. After they're cleaned, you just want to slice up the beets. I like to think of how I want to eat them. So bite-sized pieces, it really does not matter the shape or the size. If you are picky and want them to look a certain way in your jar, do whatever works. You can also do whole beets if they're all really small, but honestly, slicing them is the best. I just slice them right into a bowl and have that ready. And then I also slice some onion because I love a lot of good onion with my classic beets. For this classic, you could totally just use water if you want to in the brine, but what I like to do is strain off the beet liquid I have from cooking the beets. That sounds completely gross, I know, to a lot of you, but it really is good. Strain it off. Not only does it add a really good deep color to this, but it actually has some of that beet flavor, which just helps even more in the brine. So as gross as it sounds, it's worth it. To get the brine ready, it's really simple. You just want to take some white vinegar and then the water used for the beets, and a little bit of sugar and some salt. I know sugar seems like it is kind of a faux pas, but for canning long term, if you did no sugar, they'd get almost a little too strong and wouldn't keep as well. And the salt is extremely important and also helps preserve them. Once all those ingredients are in there, you just want to bring them to a boil on the stove. While the brine is coming to a boil, you can just start getting your jars ready. If you're not used to canning, you can sure watch my Canning 101 video to make sure you're up to date and know what to do. To fill the jars, just start with putting in some onion and then layer in the beets and then onion, and you can do as much onion or as little to your liking. I like a lot of onion, so I'm probably gonna go pretty heavy. If you don't, just put a little bit at the bottom for flavor and then fill the rest up with red beets. As you can see, I put in a lot of onion. I just like to use a large funnel because it helps keep the tops a little bit cleaner, because this beet juice can get everywhere and then you kind of look like maybe you did something weird because your hands are just beet red. Literally. I did not mean that to be as ironic as it sounded. Make sure to press slightly, but don't pack it in, because if you pack it in, enough of the brine may not get in and they could not seal. You want to make sure to leave about a ½ inch of headspace at the top. That's the little space at the top of the jar above whatever you're putting in it and where the lid is going to go. Once your jars are full and ready to go, just remove your boiling brine from the stove and ladle it on. When you're canning, it's important to keep everything really hot. Ladle the hot brine evenly into each jar, again leaving a 1/2 inch headspace at the top. And then wipe the tops off with really hot water to make sure they're sterilized of any contaminants that got on them or any drips. When your jars are cleaned, ready to go, just place on your readied lids and then the rings, tighten them and put them right into your waiting water bath. Once it's at a boil, time it the correct amount and then just pull them out and let them cool in a rack completely for at least 12, if not 24 hours. These seal extremely fast, so soon you are going to be hearing those wonderful little pings and know they are sealed and will be ready to store on your shelf all winter long. A new pickled beet that I love is a golden and white chioggia beet that's pickled with fennel and some star anise and peppercorns for flavoring. This is one of my favorites. To prepare the beets, you do exactly the same thing. Scrub the beets, leave 1 inch of the stems on and the root ends, cover them with water, and boil them until they are done. Pull them out under cool running water, remove any of the stems and roots that are still there, and then make sure to take that peel off completely. Slice them up to your preference. And then also make sure to have ready some cleaned fennel. You can just take off the tops, chop it in half, and make sure to take out that little heart that's in the middle. It can be kind of hard and some people don't like it. If you don't mind it in there, you can just keep it in and slice it up. Slice the fennel fairly thin, put it into a bowl, and then you are ready to get your brine ready. To get your brine ready, it's going to be slightly different, but the same ratios. Start with champagne vinegar. It has a slightly different flavor, and I really like the sweetness that it lends with the beets. And again, you need to cut the vinegar with some water, then the sugar, and salt. Put that on the stove and let it come to a boil, and you can fill your jars while that's heating up. This is really the same process as the classic, but with the addition of fennel. Start by putting some fennel on the bottom and then layer in your beets, a little onion if you like, which you know I do, and then some more fennel, beets, onion, however you like it. I like a lot of the fennel, so I kind of go heavy on that, so it's really just like this amazing pickled fennel and beet goodness when it's done. At the top, just put 1 star anise. Okay, I know I probably say anise weird. I think most people say anise, but I say anise. I'm sorry if you totally do not know what that is. Really, this is just to your liking. I find that 1 star per jar is plenty. And when you do open the jar later on, you don't want to eat that. Just remove it and throw it away because it is going to do all the flavoring it needs to do as it sits there. And then a few peppercorns. Once your jars are ready and your brine is at a boil, just pull that from the stove and then pour the brine evenly on top of each of the jars and then sterilize the tops just to make sure there's no drips or contaminants. Put on your readied lids, then the rings, tighten, and then put right into that waiting water bath. After a few minutes, you can take them out, and again, these are gonna seal so fast. I love to hear that ping, and soon you're gonna be able to enjoy amazing beets. The final one I'm doing is a spiced red beet. This one is so good and it has some extra flavor with the herbs of bay and rosemary. I just did extra red beets for my first one, and so they are done the exact same way for this one. First, in each jar, I am putting a sprig of rosemary and a bay leaf. This is really a great spice blend, and I think it is gonna lend so well to these flavors. The brine for this one has a little bit different vinegar, and it really is amazing in this spiced blend. I'm using red wine vinegar. It has a really rich flavor and really lends well with the rosemary. And some apple cider vinegar. Then some water, sugar, and salt. Once that's all put together, just put it on the stove and let it come to a boil and prepare your jars. Exactly the same as the classic, I'm using the dark red beets and onion. You can leave the onion out if you want, but come on, it flavors it amazingly. So just layer in those beets and onion to the top, leave a ½ inch of headspace. Then put a few peppercorns on each one. You know I love peppercorns, and this really does just blend well with all the other spices. Evenly pour the boiling brine on top of each jar, and then sterilize the tops. Put lids and rings, tighten, and then put right into your boiling water bath. After a few minutes, just like all the others, pull them right out and let them cool on a rack for 12 to 24 hours. You don't want to move them or touch them because that seal is really working at this point, and if you disturb it a little bit, it really could become unsealed. And no one wants to eat bad beets. I know some of you out there are like, I don't ever want to eat beets, period. But come on, try them. That's it. I know that seems like a lot of information, but that is 3 really quick pickled beets. Each one has a slightly different flavor, but that's what's great. You can make a pickle out of anything, and you can really change the flavors, spices to what you want. If you agree and like this video, make sure to click like below and tag me in any pictures that you do of this. I love to see what you guys make. So make sure to follow me on Instagram and on Facebook because I love to hear from you guys. Leave a comment, and until next time, happy canning.